Does hearing that you have to be creating reels if you want to grow on Instagram fill you with dread? Do you start to feel stressed out or even just feel disappointed because reels just aren't something that you're really into, you're not a huge fan of creating video, or you find it's a lot of work? And so this idea that you have to be cranking out all these reel videos just doesn't sit quite well with you. Well, if you've been hearing that graphics are dead and it's all about reels and video on Instagram, well, in today's video, I'm going to discuss how in March I really got consistent and created a lot of graphics and the results that I saw from that, and how that is a lot different from what people keep telling you about how reels are the most important thing. I'm Tabitha Emma and I'm a brand design educator and designer, and in today's video we're going to talk about how reels aren't the only way to grow on Instagram. Now, I'm not a social media expert or social media marketer, but I'm a graphic designer and creating graphics are my thing. Now, I still enjoy exploring all kinds of different content like video, just like creating this video. I think that creating all types of different media is a lot of fun. I mean, I used to like the idea of getting into animation and things like that too. And so I think creating a diverse range of media is really exciting as a business owner, and it's a way of stretching your creativity. But I know that not everyone finds video easy, or they find it hard to fit what everyone's telling you you're supposed to do with video into their brand identity. Because when it comes to things like reels, it feels like there's a very particular style that's doing well and is what's going to bring you followers and growth. But if that style just doesn't work for your brand, if it feels like the wrong fit, then you're going to feel uncomfortable about that. It's not going to sit well with you. So you might be wondering, well, does this mean that I just cannot grow anymore? That it's just not possible for me to continue to see growth and followers or engagement or anything like that, because what they're pushing at the moment is these certain types of reels, and that's just not for me. Well, for much of last year I wasn't seeing a lot of growth on Instagram. I was rather inconsistent and I had a lot of other things going on, so I wasn't putting a huge amount of energy into my Instagram. Last month I got really consistent and started creating a lot more content on there, and it was quite interesting to see the results of that and what actually happened. Now, everyone's saying that reels are the thing that are going to help you grow. The reels that I put up last month, I found I got really average engagement from, and it didn't really do anything huge for my account. And seeing some of the insights that you can now see with reels, I was finding that it wasn't doing much more than what a regular post would do. Now, that definitely doesn't mean that reels can't bring you growth. When you hit on the right thing and you're really consistent with them, they definitely can help bring you growth. But what I want to talk to you about is how it's not the only way, because I know that some people feel frustrated with them and they want to know that there are other ways, and there are. You can still grow without having to put everything into reels. What I really got traction with were my graphics. So I started to see graphics bringing me huge amounts of followers, a lot more engagement, and it felt like my account was coming back to life, that there was a lot more people seeing my stuff and things were growing, but it was in a slightly different way from what I've seen in the past. So I wanted to discuss that and what I learned from this experience. So first of all, what I've already hinted at is that consistency matters. So in those times when I wasn't very consistent, wasn't creating content regularly, I was finding that my account was pretty much just staying still. It wasn't really growing at all. And while I would occasionally put out graphics that would hit off a little bit, it wasn't doing so much because I wasn't keeping going. I wasn't building on that momentum at all. And so I was slowing myself down by not being consistent. So if you want to be able to use something other than reels, just like when people say with reels, you've got to be consistent. Whatever it is that you put your most focus on, whatever it is that you really want to say, this is the thing that I want to use to grow, you've got to be consistent with it. And so graphics can be a way to grow as long as you're consistent with it, because not everything you create is going to hit it off. Sometimes you'll get things that will take off, and sometimes you'll just get pretty average engagement from it. And so the more things that you're creating, the higher the chance of you creating things that will actually lead to growth. And also it keeps up the momentum. So as you start growing, then people feel that there's a reason to actually be following this account because they're constantly putting new stuff out there. And you're then really engaging with people that are following you. And so you're building that momentum up by being consistent. The next thing that I found was that you really need strategy behind your graphics. You can't just be random about it with what you put out there. You can't just create random things on the fly that just seem kind of cool because you just need to keep putting stuff out there and be consistent. You've got to be fairly strategic about it. And you've really got to think about who it is you want to attract. If you want to be able to use these to build your following, then you've got to think about that person that you're trying to attract. Now, this is one of the things I actually found that was different with graphics compared to a reel. Whenever reels brought me followers and views, they seem to be very random people. They didn't seem to be so much my ideal follower. It seemed to be just getting in front of random people. Whereas a graphic, it seems like as Instagram pushes more the SEO side of things, that a graphic that's strategically made to actually attract that right sort of person is more likely going to get in front of the right kind of person, because they're going to be putting in things like the explore feed, and it's going to be based on what that person is interested in and the kinds of things that they're searching for. And so if you're careful to create something that's going to actually attract and appeal to that person and be the kinds of things that they're looking for, then it's more likely going to end up on their explore page and they're going to come across you and find you. Part of this is also considering things like the person's struggles, their desires, thinking about the kind of graphics you can create that is going to hit on things that is really going to interest this person and pique their interest, so that as they're looking at lots of things, if it ends up on their explore page, they're going to see that and be like, oh, that's something I'm really interested in, that really appeals to me. You've got to grab their attention in some way. Another thing is making it relatable. So if you're not going to pull on a struggle or a desire or anything like that, another thing that can really appeal to people is creating something that's very relatable to that person. So thinking about the industry they're in or things that they're doing and creating something that's going to feel very relatable to them. Now when it comes to graphics, that can be still graphics or carousel graphics. I've seen both perform really well. So don't feel like because people say, oh, if you want to do well with graphics, you have to be doing these carousel posts. You can still create those one-off graphics too, and that will help you be more consistent, because I know carousel posts can take a lot more effort because there's a lot more involved in creating them. So you can be creating some carousel posts, but also fill it out to keep consistent with just single graphics as well, because I also saw quite a lot of good results just from single page graphics. Now, one of the most interesting things I noticed was that graphics were performing well in a slightly different way from in the past. In the past, those first 24 hours that you put something out there were sort of the most critical. If something didn't take off in those first 24 hours, or you think, well, that didn't work out, that one was a bit of a flop, or it just performed pretty averagely. But now what I noticed was things can take off in a slightly slower manner. There were posts that I would put up and in those first 24 hours didn't go so well, and I thought, I really thought this one would do well. I really thought I'd hit on something that, you know, people would really love and it would attract people. But it didn't seem to quite work out. But then a few days later, it started to pick up, and I noticed it continued to bring in followers, bring in saves and likes and views. Days later, it just kept going. And so I realized that this whole idea of 24 hours only is sort of dying off with Instagram. You don't have to feel like you've got to create something that just captures people's attention quickly in that first 24 hours. The content on Instagram is starting to become a little bit more evergreen. Now, obviously it's not going to be months long evergreen, but it's going to last for a few days, maybe even up to a week or slightly longer, which means it's worth putting more time and effort into creating something really quality, because it's not going to be something that just has to work for 24 hours and then it fizzles off. It can work for days later. And don't give up on something if it doesn't work out straight away, because it may actually pick up momentum later on. Which again links to consistency. If people are finding things days later and they're going to go check out your account, if there's more and more building up there and they're seeing that momentum, that you're consistent and constantly showing up, then they're probably going to be more likely to follow you, because it shows that you're consistent and active on the account, and they're going to get consistent value from following you. Now, the reason I was excited to see graphics performing so well is because I think there's a lot of people feeling quite disillusioned with the way things are going with Reels and video at the moment. While Reels and videos can be a lot of fun, the problem is that Instagram is the one that's pushing it. They really want it to work, but not everyone is actually wanting to consume that. Some people actually prefer things like graphics and photos and looking at your long caption posts and things like that. Not everyone actually likes sitting there and looking at Reels. Some people love it. And so diversity in your content is really important, so you appeal to different kinds of people. If you feel like you've got to keep pushing out all this video content, but it's not something that's for you, what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up creating work that isn't very good. And it brings up the debate, should you be doing good work or should you be doing what works? Because Instagram, obviously, with their algorithm, the way they work, they want to be pushing those Reels because it's what they want to do well. But what if that's not what your audience actually wants? But if you're just giving in to just doing what the algorithm wants all the time, you're losing touch with your actual audience and your brand and creating what feels true to you and doing good work. Personally, I think it's important to have a balance, to be creating a variety of different content. and put the greatest focus into the thing that comes most naturally, the thing that works well for you, but also create a little bit of all different types of content. So yes, if Instagram wants to be pushing Reels, it is a great way to connect with people, getting your face out there and letting them see you, things like that. But if it's not something that feels quite the right fit for you, you can just be doing a few here and there, but put more focus on those things that feel more natural to you and feel more aligned with your brand and feel like the kind of thing that your audience actually wants to see. So I hope today's video got you thinking about how you could use graphics to grow and how video isn't the only way, and that you can find that balance and diversity in your content and create things that are going to feel like a good fit for you, and not feeling like you just have to create the things that are being demanded of you and that the algorithm is saying that you need to be doing. That you can still find success creating different varieties of content, and if creating graphics is something that you really want to do, you can definitely see growth using them. And if you'd like to create graphics for growth, but you struggle a bit with design, or you want to be able to speed up the process a bit, or see how you can create things a bit more strategically, then you can check out my shop, which you'll find the link to in the description below. And I have lots of Canva templates on there, so if you'd like to check them out to give you a head start to see the kinds of things you can be creating, or just to speed up your process so you can create more faster to be more consistent, make sure you check that out, because I'm sure you'll really enjoy these templates. And if you'd like to learn more about creativity, graphic design and branding, then be sure to subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next time.